Ah, yes. Commodore 64 Murder Mysteries. This is a gaming system that I've been trying to get into for ages, but I feel like it's something that's quite complex and it'll take me time to adjust to it. They're usually either incredibly difficult arcade ports or incredibly in-depth stuff like Space Traders or RPGs. I did try out a few of them in the past that I found quite accessible for a beginner like me, like Labyrinth, which was actually LucasArts' first game, or Battleship. I have all the footage ready, so if you want me to review them, just tell me in the comments. Of course, considering what my channel actually is, I figured I should try some point-and-click games for this. I mean, this seemed like a decent intro for it considering its accessibility. Is this something that point-and-click fans can play? Or is it a good intro for the C64? Or should this only be in a penthouse suite for the elite C64 gamers? Stay tuned to find out.
Who's that pointing and clicking his way to internet fame? You might be a little too cool for your mainstream kind of games. But if you like retro consoles and obscure PC stuff, then you might just be hip enough for this pretentious hipster.
This one actually has tons of ports, made for the Apple II, and even for the MSX and NES. But it looks like those two were only released in Japan. This was both developed and published by Activision, which oddly enough I'll most likely get around to review another one for December. It seems to have, I guess you can say, a more of a humble crew involved with this. It was created by Adam Bellin, who mostly programmed a bunch of PGA Tour games in the 90s. This game for the most part was received very well, known for its fantastic presentation, but it seems like the slow pacing of it turned off some people. Oddly enough, if you look in Moby Games, the Apple version had a contest where you can go in a riverboat. If you know the Agatha Christie story called Death on the Nile, then you will definitely know this. You play a Cyril Charles Foxworth, a fancy British man who keeps getting involved into tangled tales of murder, mystery, and intrigue. His journey begins on a boat called the Delta Princess, which started just south of St. Louis. You then start walking around, going into random rooms, and then you stumble upon this. Oh, a person sleeping on the ground. That's quite odd, especially when there's a bed right there anyways. The thing that is even more strange is that he's sleeping among a pile of blood. Oh wait, he is sleeping, but for eternity, because he's dead. The ship docks in New Orleans in 3 days. 1 day is an hour of real time. So yes, there is a time limit to this. You have 3 hours to solve the case. I did play another point and click, actually the first LucasArts game, which was Labyrinth, but I don't feel like it's good to compare to those two. In fact, I think I should compare this with more games with the MS-DOS era made around the same time. This aims for a completely different control approach. You don't have a text parser in this. You don't have a keyboard. Hell, you don't even use a mouse. All you use is a joystick. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird, but it actually makes total sense when I'll explain it. Basically, you use the joystick to move around, and then you use the button to access menu options. Trust me, it actually works. As you start the game and exit the room, this is what is my favorite part of the game, even if it doesn't seem like it would be one. Simply walking outside with you and your partner, seeing those animations, and hearing the simple yet charming and effective music. It just exudes so much charm, and I honestly never got tired of it, and even smiled every time I walked outside. You then go to all these random rooms, meeting 8 characters along the way. You've got the hard-hitting judge, the high-class woman, the older woman, the two employees, the priest, the rich hunter, and more. The characters are so stereotypical that they had to have been a parody. I mean, so many of them just scream 1930s. It's honestly quite humorous. A guy walks into a doctor's office. The doctor says, "Hey, you're gonna need an operation." The guy says, "Can I get a second opinion about this?" And the doctor says, "Yeah, you're ugly too. Bada boom boom." Since this game exudes charm, it comes from the dialogue as well. There's mistakes like this. The thought plickens. Begone, thought. This leads to the bulk of the gameplay and how the joystick comes in. As you enter the rooms with people, it leads to a few options. You then select the one you want with the joystick. The options come down to walking around to stop the convo, ask to inspect their rooms, examine evidence which is showing it to that person, or just talking to the person. Talking to them either comes down to asking about the victim or the suspects. And for the latter, you choose by going over their photos and pressing the joystick button. They then give you some information. Doing this, you have the option to write down any info you find relevant in their text, and choose the words to form your own sentence. When you interrogate the suspects, you could be like, "Well, this person said this. What do you think of it?" They always say yes to allowing you to inspect the rooms. And it usually isn't that bad to find the objects, even when they're all hidden. They will always be in a place like a cupboard or a bed. Some of these rooms are locked. You gotta go to the employee in the basement and have him follow you to unlock the doors. Just be careful with them. It reaches some Sierra-like moments. Oh no! Whew, that was a close call. Or this. I mean, how the hell are you supposed to know that will happen? And of course it comes down to almost like a maze with trial and error to figure out how to get to the other side of the room. This is one of the 3 parts that sucked about this game. The evidence is easily the most important part. You have 2 places to hold them, in your partner's pockets or in the briefcase in your room. You can use that to look at the evidence closely and do stuff like open boxes, or see if there's any connection with 2 separate pieces of evidence, or even just using your senses. You can store more evidence in this briefcase as well. Trust me, every time you find one piece of evidence, do this, as it will open up tons of conversation options. Take the time to write down anything related to someone or an object. It may seem trivial, but it might be the thing needed to advance the case. Also, do not skip the dialogue. You can't repeat it. Yeah, I know, this also sucks, but I guess it makes sure that you really pay attention to it. The last part of the game that sucks is finding one piece of evidence. Yeah, one of the items is actually in the ceiling of the ship itself, between 2 rooms. I'm not going to say exactly where it is, but that was just frankly absurd. You're going to have to end up searching between every door of the ceiling, and trust me, you're going to be annoyed, especially when there's a time limit. I'm obviously not going to spoil it, but the ending is not something that you quite expect. It somehow still adds to the charm of the game, and well, that's its strength, and it makes it even better. It's funny, cause the best part of the game is just walking around, but that just shows how fantastic this can be. I'd honestly say that this is my favorite adventure game of the 80s so far. I'd highly recommend you play it, even if it has a few terrible stuff like the rooms and the time limit. Definitely check it out.